Hi everyone, and welcome back to Artful. This week I'm going to be showing you how to do some watercolours, and specifically how I painted these northern lights. I used some big brushes and a lot of masking fluid, so let's see how I did it. The first thing we're going to paint are our icebergs. Damp your paintbrush with a bit of water and then paint with your masking fluid. To make our icebergs, all I'm doing is creating a bit of a wiggly line with a horizontal line beneath it. Join that shape up and then fill with your masking fluid. Before you paint over that, you are going to have to wait for that masking fluid to dry for about 30 to 45 minutes. It needs to be tacky without any pools of masking fluid left over, otherwise you will drag that with your water and your paint. Mixing some greens, blues and yellows, we've got a nice green watercolour layer. I'm using one of our biggest brushes because we want a consistent tone rather than a wash. Our dry masking fluid layer is now sealed, so none of our wet watercolour paint is going to penetrate that latex and get onto the white paper underneath it. Then, mixing some blues and greens together so we get a nice marine coppery blue, take your big brush and do the same for the water, having a nice consistent stroke just so it's all the same colour. Now, you're going to have to wait for your watercolour paints to dry before adding our next masking fluid layer. With our masking fluid, we're now going to be painting the northern lights and the reflections in the water. The northern lights are caused by a magnetic disruption to our solar winds. So, remembering that, try and paint your northern lights going in one direction. I'd recommend looking at photo reference before painting, but what you're really looking for is a nice swirly pattern in your night sky. In the water beneath it, then what you'll be doing is mirroring the pattern you've made and then adding some waves on the top of it, which you can do with some directional horizontal lines. Then, once again, you're waiting for your masking fluid to dry, though hopefully it shouldn't take so long because you've not used as much. Once it is dry and it's tacky, you can paint over it again with some darker colours. For our night sky, I'm going to create a nice bluey green on top of our nice light green underneath the masking fluids. And then in the sea, you can add a bit of darker colour on top of it to represent the shimmering waves. Once that secondary watercolour layer is bone dry, now it's time for the fun bit. You get to peel away your masking fluid bit by bit, exposing that paint layer beneath it. Make sure your masking fluid is dry though, because if it is even slightly wet, you will end up dragging that out and maybe ruining your painting. Finally, I'm just going to add a bit of extra detail into our painting. I'm adding a light blue wash in the inside of our iceberg, just so it looks a bit reflective and translucent. And I'm adding a bit more of the darker blue into the waves on top of our masking fluid layer. And there you go, a nice simple watercolour painting of the Aurora Borealis. I think people who've never really experimented with watercolours before have this perception as a medium that can be quite fiddly to use. And whilst it still can be, I hope this tutorial proved to you that you can still make some lovely paintings using some broad washes and some big brushes. So let us know in the comments down below how you got painting your Northern Lights, and if you want to share your creations with us, tag us on Instagram at Artful Box. Like and subscribe to our YouTube to see some of our earlier tutorials, and why not treat yourself and visit artful.co.uk. Thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you again soon with another tutorial.